KiCAD 9 is finally here, and this update brings some major improvements that will make your PCB design workflow smoother, faster, and more powerful than ever before. Obviously, as you know, I'm working on a KiCAD tutorial at the moment, and I'll be transitioning that series to KiCAD 9 as well. So as you can see, my download is in progress, and I have not tested any of the features yet, but let's do that together. I'm going to get this installed, and I'll show you all the new things that are included in KiCAD 9. So whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, or if you've used KiCAD 8 in the past, KiCAD 9 I'm sure is going to be a very useful tool. It's packed full of new features, as you can see from the description, for PCB design. In this video, we'll go through everything that's new, what's changed and what's improved. Finally, whether it's time for you to upgrade or not. So let's get started. But before we get bogged down in the detail, let's take a moment to thank PCBWay, the sponsor of this video. A great PCB design tool is only one part of the equation. You also need a high quality PCB supplier. Now PCBWay offers PCB fabrication, turnkey assembly, and even 3D printed services. Getting a quote is simple, just fill in your details on their website and they'll generate an estimate for you. One of the things I really like about PCBWay is their creator community, where people can share their projects, and I share my projects there too. So if you want to order PCBs, consider PCBWay, and also use my link below to get yourself a nice discount. So a big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. And now back to KiCAD 9 and its features. So while KiCAD is installing in the background, let's have a look at some of the new features that are available with the version 9 release. So first of all, we get a job set. This feature was available in Altium as far as I remember when I used to design PCBs on Altium a few years back. And it basically lets you create a predefined job list so you can create your outputs for your PCB and your schematic with the click of a button. So we're going to test this out and see how well it works with a PCB design that I'm working on at the moment. Next up, it's embedded files. I'm not entirely sure what this does, but I think it lets you have a standalone project that does not rely on external libraries. I think we'll have to test this out in a bit more detail later on when I've had the opportunity to understand the feature more. Next up, we've got multi-channel support, basically where you can take a copy of a circuit and just repeat it many times, as you can see on the screen now with the video that's playing. Obviously, this will be very useful for some people who do repeated designs. Now, this is a very interesting feature, and I think it's very similar to how Altium does classes as well. So you can draw a little box around your component and give it a class, whereas at the moment, you have to give classes to nets individually. So this will be interesting and I think make my PCB design process a little bit easier for me. Component classes are something I've not seen in the past. So this will be a interesting feature to explore and basically attaches to the component itself rather than the net. Next up, we can see we have the capability to add tables to the schematic. Moving swiftly on, this custom ERC and DRC errors, I seem to remember using them in KiCAD 8 as well. So I'm not sure what's new here. Maybe it gives you more customization options. So we'll have to explore that feature further to see what the capabilities are. In KiCAD 8, I used to add ERC errors on my schematic as a reminder to do something later on. So if I was to run a ERC check or a DRC check on the PCB, it would flag an error and remind me to do that thing. Now that KiCAD 9 is installed, let me have a look at the project I'm working on at the moment. Hopefully nothing breaks in my project because I need to get this made, and I think I'll create a backup before I do this. So my design has not been affected at all. As you can see with the 3D models and everything that I added is still there. This is coming out in another video very soon. Here is the table feature that we were looking at. So if you remember in the KiCAD tutorial series, in the schematic, we obviously have a table of contents over here. So let's see if we can turn this into a nice table using this new feature. So this table obviously is very useful. I'll need to play around with it a bit more to get a better understanding on how I can use it a bit more efficiently. The main thing I'm interested in is the job file, but I'm not sure where to find it. In order to create a jobset file, you basically go to File, New Jobset File over here. I'm going to add it to my project and call this Outputs. Press the OK button. You see over here you've got a new interface, and in here you've got your job list. You can go to the editor or you can go to the jobs file. Press the plus button over here. So the first thing I want to do is export a PDF. I want that in A3. First job, do the schematic drawing. Let's see if I can edit that. I want that in outputs. Press the OK button. So let's try this out. Click the generate all outputs button. So let's see how that performed. My main project folder is called SD card reader, and we've got a folder in there called outputs. It creates another folder inside, so something to be careful with. You need to add in the PDF extension as well. So you can see it's got the schematic printed out for us. So I'm going to try everything else now. So now I'm just going to add the rest of my jobs. Let's see how that works. So I want to export a 3D model. just going to press the OK button. I want to export the Gerbers, which is going to be this one over here. And directory, I want to basically have, press OK. I'm just going to test this. After saving it, let's make sure it works. You can see my Gerber files have all generated. I've got a step model over here. I've got my schematic as before. One of the things I like to do is print out a copy of my PCB on PDF. So we do have that option over here. So basically I want to press OK on that. And the only layers I want on that is the fabrication layer and the drawing sheet. I also want edge cuts and drill marks, actual size. Let's try that. I'm going to call this assembly drawing .pdf and press OK. Save the job, generate the outputs. So I've made an error in here. So this is basically the folder rather than the file name. So when I do this using KiCAD itself as a single operation, here's what I expect the drawing to look like. So basically I go into print, do print, I select my fabrication layer, my edge cut and print preview. And you can see I get a nice assembly drawing. It's mirrored, it shouldn't be mirrored. As you can see, I get a nice assembly drawing like this. This is basically what I was after. I'm not sure if it's possible at the moment with the job set because the options look a little bit limited in terms of what you can do, but maybe it's one of these options, so I'll need to explore that further. But we are able to generate Gerber files, renders, schematic PDFs and bill of materials. Basically, this will make it a little bit easier to generate the output files for my projects. So a very good feature. I hope they continue to improve on this. I'm probably not using it right, but I would like a feature where I can generate an assembly drawing as well. Now, generally I do that with a printed PDF, but there's likely a way of doing it from the job set file. After a bit of messing around, I realized how I can do this. Basically, instead of include layers, I should be using plot on all layers. So I want to plot the fabrication and then I want to plot the edge cuts. So if I do this, I should get the drawing that I am after. I want to have my drawing template, my drawing sheet in there as well. Single document in color, that's fine. So I'm going to press OK on that. And then I'm going to delete this one, and delete that one. Save the job set and generate the outputs. Now I'm hoping this will have generated the PDF file that I was after. So that's perfect. That's exactly what I was after. I think I'll print it in black and white so that it comes out a little bit better instead of gray, because I think at the moment I've done it in color. So we can try that. Let's modify this. Let's change that option to black and white. Save the job set, generate all outputs. Now you can see this is generating my schematic. It's generating a 3D model. It's doing the Gerbers and it's doing my assembly drawing as well. So it's doing everything I used to do at the end of my project with one button, which is brilliant. I will try out the bill of materials feature as well. And there we go. This is the assembly drawing that I wanted to generate with one click. So very happy with that. It's a very good tool. It's also got the no place parts on it as well. So finally, let me try the bill of materials. So press the plus again. I'm going to go to my schematic and do a generate bill of materials. Press OK. I do have a bill of material preset already, so I'm going to use that. Press OK and it's added to the job list. So save the job set and generate all outputs. Before I regenerate all outputs, let me delete everything in this folder. So what I'm going to do is save the job set and generate all outputs. So you can see it's generated my Gerbers, generated my model, it's generated my schematic drawing, it's done my bill of materials. I may not have a separator on this template at the moment, so that's fine. And it's also done my assembly drawing. So very cool feature. And the drawing has smart links. So I can track my components on the drawing as well, which is very cool. So yeah, as you probably can hear from my voice, I'm very happy with this job set feature. It's going to save me a lot of time. I can't wait to learn more about it and use it in more detail with my projects. So we've looked at the job set. One of the features we've not looked at is the embedded files. This probably lets you create a project that's self-contained with all the files and 3D models and everything. But it's going to be too long for me to go through it now. So we can explore that feature in more detail later on. Doing that for this video is going to be too long. But it does sound like a cool feature because when I used to use KiCAD about 6 years ago, projects did fail a lot when transferring between PCs because some files would be missing. So I'm looking forward to that, and I will try to use this feature in all my projects, obviously if it's easiest to use, so that my projects don't break when I pass them on. The Bezier curve tool, I've never really needed to use this feature, but I'm sure it has a lot of useful applications for a lot of people. I'm not sure what happened with the project, but maybe I found a bug with KiCAD 9. All my components have disappeared. Let me try reloading the software to see if I can bring the components back. This may be something I've done, but the components have definitely disappeared. For some reason, everything was hidden. I'm not sure why, but I didn't hide the objects. So yeah, it's doing something weird. So this may have happened because of the way I generated the files using the jobset feature. Now this is only a guess, so I'm not sure entirely why the objects disappeared. So obviously the feature is very new, so expect some bugs. So the Bezier curve tool, I think mainly for the edge cuts and some graphics on your silk screen layer. Obviously that's going to break my PCB, but you get the point. So basically you can make things like this and change it after the fact as well. I'm not sure what I'm trying to create here. So interesting feature. I'll try to make use of it in some of my videos. Next up, it's multi-channel design. For the projects I do, I've never really needed this, but I'm sure it'll be useful for other people who do repeated designs. Now we can look at component classes and the net class box. So I have this board over here. I'm going to go to my schematic and I'm going to do a class. So draw rules area, basically let's try it out. It's got a very similar feel to Altium, which is great. And then maybe I can assign a class to this. Let's see what class I've assigned to this. So it's microSD, so I'm going to get a class, call it USD, and we can also assign a component class with this. I'm not entirely sure what that is. You can see all the tracks have changed to pink. Now, if I get rid of this, only the bottom ones are pink, which is what microSD class is at the moment. So everything inside the border changes to that class. Obviously the component doesn't. I'm not entirely sure how net classes on components will work and help with the PCB design. Maybe it can help to change clearances for components. So at the moment, if you assign a net class and set that track width, let's say to 0.4 millimeters, and as soon as you hit the track onto the component, and let's say you've got a very narrow pitch component, then obviously that's not going to work and it's going to be a DRC error, which you'd have to ignore for the component to attach, or you would have to change the track width. So maybe this feature will help with that. Maybe. I've not seen a component class feature before. Maybe I just missed it in Altium. So if you go to the schematic setup and look at net classes, the component classes are not there. So I'm not entirely sure where to find the component classes. Now, if I go to my PCB design, obviously I've given this a net class. What you would generally do is go to the board setup and you can create custom rules for your net classes. So you can see micro SD and the component class I just created is not there. I'll need to explore this feature in more detail to make sure it actually works and where to find the relevant details. This mouse scroll wheel action feature will obviously be very useful when creating new components.
So yeah, that'll make our life a little bit easier
in terms of creating new components, and also if you're doing buses, which I don't do much of. But again, a very useful feature added to KiCAD 9. Synchronization tool is going to be very useful because one of the frustrations with using hierarchical designs in KiCAD is that you have to go backwards and forwards to assign and get pins in and out of a hierarchical design where your root file is. So definitely looking forward to using this tool a little bit more and see how it works. I really like the net class rules area, which we've already explored. Next up, reusable design blocks. If this lets us create our own schematic blocks, that would be great. In terms of like the USB-C connector and the associated 5K1 resistors, which I use on almost every project I do. And let's say TP4056 battery charging circuit, which I've used quite a bit. So if I could create design blocks for that, that would be really good. Now this feature is really good. I really didn't like changing the track colors on schematics, but highlighting colors is really good. Obviously this is a personal preference. So I'm going to start using the net colors on my schematic a lot more. If I go to my project for the ESP32 drone, which I'm doing for the KiCAD tutorial series. In the tutorial series, I recently created this net class for the 5-volt line. So I'm going to try out this feature now. So instead of the blue color, I want it to be on highlight. So in order to do that, there should be an option here to toggle between highlight and net color. Now if I go back to the blog post, there should be a tick button on the interface. As you can see on mine, there isn't. So this is likely a bug, or maybe it's not implemented in Windows yet. So hopefully I'm in the right place to find this feature. It does look like it looking at the menu option. So you've got general formatting. So I've got all the right options over here, but I don't have this highlight net colors label. As soon as I work out what's wrong, I will be using that feature because I don't like changing the color of the nets at all. Now there are a ton of other changes, so please check out the blog post and read for yourself. In a few months, I will let you know how I get on with KiCAD 9, what features I like the most, and whether if you should download it or not. Obviously, I think you should download KiCAD 9 to try for yourself because KiCAD is awesome. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the kind of scattered walkthrough of KiCAD 9 and its features. And basically you saw the features as I did because this is the first time I'm using KiCAD 9. So the video was a little bit messy. I will make another video with my final opinions on KiCAD 9 in a few months. So as you know, KiCAD gets updated very frequently, so there will be more changes coming very soon, I'm sure. Thank you for watching today. Bye for now.